Hello everyone, and thank you for watching this video. This is in relation to the safeguarding updates for 2023-2024. First of all, as a disclaimer, we're going to be talking through some quite sensitive topics. If anything that we talk about in these slides raises any concerns or anxiety, please don't forget that we've got the Care First line that we can support you with. This is via GLF. We've also got a team of our leadership team and our safeguarding team as well. So we have a large safeguarding team. I'm the designated safeguarding lead, and then we have an array of deputy designated safeguarding leads. We've got our heads of year 7, 8 and 9 supported by Richard overseeing them. We've got our heads of year 10 and 11 overseen by Michelle, and then we have our sixth form team overseen by Emma. All of us are around either in classrooms, offices, we also are contactable via our email addresses, and our posters, our faces are all on the posters that are in every single classroom around the school site and every single office. So you should be able to find one of us if you have an urgent concern. So with safeguarding then, that's the overarching way that we keep children safe. It's things like our site security, our e-safety, our risk assessments. Child protection, on the other hand, is about specifically protecting children where there are concerns. So where they may have been suffering harm or likely to suffer from significant harm because of perhaps abuse or neglect. Now, our context. You may think we're in leafy Surrey, a lovely school. Although that might be true, the perception about safeguarding, we need to be fairly kind of realistic about that. In the past year, we've had an increase of 57% in our referrals that we've made to CSPAR, that's the Children's Single Point of Access. So 4 students we had to refer for involvement in county lines. 3 students were referred because of physical chastisement at home. 4 students were referred for neglect or inadequate care. We also had 10 students referred for their mental health. So you can start to see that we do have students who need quite severe extra support from this school. So safeguarding and the role of school staff. Everybody in this school is responsible for safeguarding the students that are within it. And it's everybody's role and responsibility to recognise if there are any signs that something is not quite right and to respond to that by reporting it. It's not your role to investigate any concerns, and it's not your role to attempt to resolve any of these concerns. Simply to recognise that something might be wrong, that gut feeling that you quite often get, and to respond via reporting to us on CPOMs. And I really do mean every single child in this school, whether they're in year 7, whether they're in year 13, whether their attendance is 20% or 100%. It's every single child in this school. So in terms of categories of abuse, we've got physical, sexual, neglect, emotional, and contextual. Now, they can be by anyone that young person knows. It could be a family member, a family friend, school staff, a celebrity. It could be a stranger, another child, or volunteers. But it's important to remember that it's any person that young person comes into contact with. It's not to say it's going to happen, of course, but we have to be aware that it may happen. And it doesn't matter about perceptions or what we think about that person. Anyone could potentially do this. Domestic abuse often happens within the home. Now, we tend to think that happens between parents, but it can also happen with the child being involved as well. What's new here is that a child who witnesses abuse is now identified as a victim as well. So if they've witnessed that between either siblings, parents, that is now identified them as a victim. So what are the signs? Now, there may be physical indicators, something more obvious like bruising. It could be a dirty shirt, it could be being quite hungry. It could be things like rotting teeth, sign of neglect. Or it could be behavioural indicators, things like them going missing for short periods of time. It could be them being quite isolated, or it could be them being overly boisterous, for example. I'll just give you a moment to read through some of the physical indicators that abuse may be happening. So these physical indicators can sometimes be accompanied by behavioural indicators as well. What's important here is that these aren't all of the behavioural or physical indicators that there may be, and equally it may only be that one of them is present, but it is still a sign that there is potentially something wrong, and we need to be alerted to that if you think that there is something not quite right. So I'll give you a moment to read through those behavioural indicators now. Okay, so moving on then to who decides if there's been abuse. We as a safeguarding team don't make that decision. We put together all of the puzzle pieces, all of the information that people give us, and we put that together. And if there is enough there to really raise our concern, we would put together a referral form and send that to Children's Services. Now, Children's Services at that point may decide to contact the family, they may decide to visit the school, visit the family home, they may organise a strategy meeting, and that family may go onto a child in need plan or a child protection plan. Equally, they may decide just to do nothing and to monitor that family or give advice and guidance. Ultimately, though, they are the people that make that decision. Children's Services, they have the holistic picture and they put together the information from schools, other schools that the family may go to, in addition to the health service and the police service as well. So all of those agencies come together and give information, and Children's Services then decide what to do. In terms of reporting information that would come to us as a safeguarding team, the only exception is where a member of staff may suspect that female genital mutation has happened. With that, the member of staff that thinks that that's happened or is going to happen would report that directly to the police. They can, of course, come and speak to us about that, but it is their responsibility, if you think that, to make sure that you have disclosed that to the police directly. So how are disclosures made? Now, children may share a concern or disclose abuse in a variety of ways. It could be directly, actually telling you and making specific verbal statements about what's happened to them. It could be indirectly, through making ambiguous verbal statements, for example. It could be behaviourally, actually them just showing you in their behaviour that something's wrong, maybe deliberate or not. Also non-verbally, through writing letters, drawing pictures, or trying to communicate in other ways. We quite often see this, for example, in exam papers. When they're in a distress situation, they may then be writing or drawing pictures to show that something is wrong. What's important here is that all behaviour is communication, and we must listen to what we are being told, even if it isn't through a verbal disclosure. So here at Glyn, we have the CPOMS system embedded. So CPOMS is essentially a website where you can log all of your concerns about a child. If you're a new member of staff, you need to make sure that you're able to log on to CPOMS. You would be sent details of this upon joining the school. And you simply search for that child and just press add new incident and record on there what your concern is. Tag cause for concern, you've got that concern, and we then receive that and we action that information. Now, when a child discloses to you, it's really important that you listen and you reassure them that you're taking it seriously, that they've done a massive thing here in telling you something or disclosing something to you. So recording that conversation in students' words and explaining what will happen next. And that's that the information will be passed on to a very small team of people who need to know. They're not going to be made to feel awkward about it or questioned about it, but that information will be passed on, and they have to know that you cannot keep it a secret. It's something that we have to disclose. So attached to this, there is a video on how to respond to a disclosure, so a couple of minutes long, an NSPCC video on how to respond to a disclosure, and you'll watch that after this video. We also have at Glyn the Glyn Sharp system. Now, this system offers support, advice and guidance for our students and their families. It's a website system that students can access via the main school website. There are posters around school, and tutors deliver this once a half term to refresh their memory of the Glyn Sharp system. It had over 3,000 hits last year, so lots of families do use this for advice and guidance, and it's useful for students to familiarise themselves with if they think that there is something concerning them. It also has that facility to report something if they don't want to give any information about it. Looking at a serious case review now, and this is to do with children's online safety and the lessons that were learned here. There's a short video attached to the end of this presentation as well that you can look at in relation to this. So Frankie Thomas is who the serious case review was about, and the coroner ruled that the school that she was at had failed her and had allowed her access to inappropriate content on an unfiltered school device. So the online web system that was supposed to protect her at the school wasn't working, and therefore she was able to access some quite graphic self-harm and suicide content. Later on, after she had accessed that, she proceeded with suicide, and it was through the methods that she had looked at online. So you have a role in monitoring children's safety online. And that role is to let us know if you think at any point that a child has accessed anything in age inappropriate or unacceptable. We have filtering systems in place, but there may be new websites, there may be new words, new trigger words that access different things that we're not aware of. So if you suspect anything, it's your job to tell me as the DSL or someone in the safeguarding team so that we can liaise with the IT team. We will look further on in the year at online safety, but in a nutshell, it can be categorised into content, so what they're looking at online, contact, who they're speaking to, the conduct of what they're doing on their online platforms, and then equally commerce as well. Okay, moving on to concerns about colleagues. I hope you don't have any concerns about colleagues, but equally, if you do, you need to know what to do. So if you are concerned about any member of staff, that could be a supply teacher, it could be a volunteer, any person who works in this school, if you think they pose a risk of harm to children, please, in the first instance, speak to Joe Garrett, our head of school, or Matt Duffield, our executive head teacher. If your concerns are about either of those two, so either Joe or Matt, it's important that you speak to the GLF School's People Director. Now, that information is on the safeguarding posters that are in every single classroom and every single office, so you should be able to get that email address quite quickly anywhere around the school site. So there may be some low-level concerns that you have. Now, a low-level concern about an adult should still be referred to us. If it doesn't quite feel right, please do let us know. It could be inadvertent or thoughtless behaviour. It could be something that's inappropriate depending on the circumstances. So things like being overly friendly with children, having favourites, taking photographs of children on their mobile phone, engaging with children on a one-to-one basis in a secluded area or behind a closed door, or using inappropriate, sexualised, intimidating or offensive language. So all of those would be classified as low-level concerns, but things that we would still need to be alerted of. So social media and you, please make sure that your social media accounts are private. Please do check your settings, log out and search for your profile or ask someone to do this for you. Be careful and be cautious of those who are requesting to follow you or to be your friends. It may look legitimate on the account, but it could actually be someone impersonating someone else. So it's always best to check that that person has requested to follow you. Be mindful as well that there are some apps that use location sharing. So be cautious of this and make sure that your location settings are off when you're on the school site so you can't be found. And if you think that a student has become infatuated with you, please do report that to your line manager or discuss that with me as the DSL. So documents that you need to read as part of this then, you've got the Keeping Children Safe in Education, Part 1 and Annex B, the Staff Code of Conduct, the Safeguarding and the Child Protection Policy, and the GLF Social Media Policy. Shelley will send you this email and you will be able to sign this all off on your National College login. Thank you.